Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So today I thought I'd do a wee book review and I would chat to you about How to Kill Your Family by Mackie. I'm not going to tell you how to actually kill your family. That would be wrong. Don't do it. I know some of you are tempted, but don't do it. But yeah. How to Kill Your Family by Mackie. So I was in Waterstones April? When was Easter? I was in Waterstones the week before Easter, whenever that was, because I had vouchers to spend, and why the hell not? It doesn't count towards the book buy ban if 4 books only cost you like £3, right? Right? Yeah. But yeah, anyway, one of the books that I picked up was How to Kill Your Family by Mackie. I had this stunning pink cover with black sprayed edges, and we all know I am a sucker for some sprayed edges. And I just so happened this just so happened to be a few days before I went to visit my family, and I thought this is exactly the kind of book I should be reading when I visit my family for, I think, the first time this year. Needless to say, that's the kind of humor we have, you know. My mum saw the title and had a good proper chuckle to herself. So yeah, I surprisingly I enjoyed this a bit more than I thought I was going to. The premise of the book is basically it is about Grace Bernard, who is currently in prison for a murder she did not commit, and this is kind of really annoying her. So she decides to write down like her story essentially, and describe the 6 murders that she did commit and got away with. And she has basically been targeting individual members of a specific family because they belong to her biological dad's family, who she is basically the product of an affair he had with her mother, and then he basically shoved her mother to the side and was like, nope, because they come from like old money, and her mother wasn't money and wasn't worth marrying. Her mother dies at one point. It doesn't outright say, but I can't remember if it outright said, but I want to say like her mother dies of like cancer or something. So this is Grace now grown up and taking revenge on the family, and has just decided, you know what, wiping you all out. That's how it goes. Yeah. it's it's a revenge murder book. Yeah. So I've written some wee points because we're gonna attempt to do this in a structured manner, but it's me, so don't read too much into that. So what did I think worked for this book? I really liked the humor in it. There were a number of sort of like chuckle out loud moments where she would just come out with like this snide side comment, and you'd be like, oh, I shouldn't be laughing, but it's kind of hilarious. It's kind of, it's the humor. It's obviously this is murder revenge plot, so it's a very dark, twisted humor, and it's very much it's that, oh, I should not be laughing at this, but well, I'm probably just not that good a person. um, yeah, it was witty at times, which was it hit my humor points just right. I'm gonna say the plot worked for me. I got a bit about pacing later, but overall the plot worked for me. I really liked. So I'd read a couple of reviews, sort of like as I was getting into this, and a lot of folk have said, like, a lot of folk had pointed out that, oh, they were really enjoying it up until the twist at the end. Note to self: don't read reviews, because don't read reviews until after you've read the book and made up your own opinion. Okay. So all the way through, I'm looking out for hints of this twist coming up, and I think I figured out what it's gonna be. And then I get to the end, and you're like, I actually didn't see that coming. I maybe should have, but I did not see that coming. I kind of figured it was connected to one character, and it kind of was, but not in the way I expected it to be. Yeah. I am gonna say what happens at the end. I feel like the last few chapters do very much make or break this book for people. I liked how it went. It worked for me. I do understand that it's not going to work for everybody. I'm just going to put that out there. So the plot and the twist, and actually, the thing that stands out most in this book is the character work. Grace is a psychopath, or at the very least a sociopath, but I would go so far as to say a psychopath. We're never outright told this. Everything is told from Grace's point of view. This is the first person she is writing down, I did this, then I did that, blah, 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 blah. So you were never outright told, but she has written it in such a way that you're like, oh, yeah, you're, emotions are not your strong point, are they? You don't really have, you don't really get those, do you? It's very, she's got a very Villanelle, Killing Eve kind of character. Throughout the book, you're just constantly getting these Killing Eve vibes. I really like the way like the character is very much like, she's got a superiority complex. She's not likable. Like, Bella Mackie wrote a character that is not likable, but I liked reading about her, which I think that's very well done. That is like, I know a lot of people don't agree with this. Like, their reviews, this is a very divisive book. And a lot are like, she's just downright unlikable and unrelatable. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how it should be. You should not like her. I can sympathize with her. And I mean, I was sympathizing with her at times where it's like, I think there was one point, I can't even remember what happened, but I remember thinking to myself, like, she's already killed 3 people. Stop sympathizing for this person. This is not a good person. But you're still like, yeah, life's been hard. Yeah. Right? She is very unrelatable. And I'm sorry, but a psychopath who has killed 6 people should never be relatable. So I actually do think that was very well done. I do have to say she's probably the only character in the book that I enjoyed how she did. To be fair, there's not a huge amount of other characters that get a lot of focus. Our main character, because she is telling the story and it is her story, she's obviously focusing a lot on herself. And when you take into account her personality, it makes sense that a lot of the other characters don't get a lot of work done on them. We don't see a lot of their depth. Because she doesn't see it. She just brushes them off aside. And I just think that that's how it should be. That they worked so well for me. Yeah, some of the other characters, like Jimmy, who is her friend, who's like the only person she likes. Yeah, he's a bit of a wet blanket. He's a bit of a doormat, but it's fine. Yeah. There were a couple of things that didn't work for me. The chapter length. You knew when someone, by about the 3rd murder, I was like, oh, someone's going to die in this chapter because it's like 50, 60 pages long. Nothing much is going to happen in this chapter because it's only 4 pages long. There's no consistency with the chapter length. And I'm not saying that in every book, every chapter has to be the same length. But when you go from like chapter pages in single figures to 50, 60, 70 pages long, it's a bit tedious. It's a little annoying. Especially when you're reading it at night and you're like, yeah, okay, I'll put the light out once I finish this chapter. And I'm not going so far as to say that this was an unput-downable book. I could put it down. I enjoyed picking it back up, but it wasn't like a reading up till 1 a.m. book. So you'd be like, right, okay, I'm going to read to the next chapter. Oh my god, the chapter is never ending. And some of the chapters did very much feel like they were never ending. So I would say chapter length and almost pacing to an extent was a bit of an issue that didn't quite work for me. Likewise, I think what contributed to those chapter lengths, especially around the murders, is that the length of descriptions we got at times. I think when she was teaching herself how to tie a noose, I'm like, I don't need, can you not just tell me you taught yourself how to tie a noose? I don't need all the descriptions of like the various knots she contemplated and all the various things. I think there was almost like 2 solid pages. Like, I don't care. So there were times where you're kind of like almost skim reading to get back to the plot because I just didn't care. Um, and then I've got like this little section where it's like it kind of didn't work, but it kind of did. It didn't really work, but I can understand why it was done that way, and it couldn't have worked another way, any other way. But I often felt like myself being taken out of the book because of the writing style and sort of like the words and how certain things were phrased. Because you'd be reading this and you'd be like, oh my god, no one actually speaks this way. Like, it didn't, sometimes it didn't flow. Sometimes it just felt almost like too polished or not even polished. It just, okay, it felt very first drafty at times. But then I have to remind myself that this is a woman writing this in secret, on her bunk bed, in prison. This is a first draft. And you try to tell me that everybody's first draft sounds perfect. No. So I think it worked because it should have. It annoyed me because it sounded at times very first draft. Like no one actually says that. Like some of the dialogue and things, or like in her thoughts and things, were just a bit like, yeah. But then I'd pause and I'd be like, well, one, she's a psychopath. She doesn't think like everybody else. Not that everyone thinks the same, but obviously, she's got a whole other level of like, her brain really doesn't work the same way. And this is a first draft for her. Then you'd be like, okay, no, that kind of makes sense, and you get back into it. I know that's a really weird way to describe it, and I don't know if that makes sense, what I've just said, but that's the best I can do for you. And another thing where I'm really torn on if I liked it or not was, so because I had the Waterstones edition, there was an exclusive additional chapter for the Waterstones edition that you won't find in other copies, which is, it's almost like an epilogue. I think I didn't hate it, but I think I didn't need it. It's not Deathly Hallows 19 years later level of let's pretend this didn't exist. I liked seeing what happened in the, not quite the conclusion, but it's like, okay, right. So like twist happened, book ends. And then niceness. So I kind of liked seeing what happened to characters because I often finish a book going, oh, but what next? So it was nice to get this, oh, but what next moment. But at the same time, I think if it had ended at the original point, it would have been so satisfying. Because it was very much of a, not quite, it wasn't a gotcha moment, but it was a, yeah. That didn't quite work out for you, did it moment. It was a, I can't say too much because spoilers, the very end. But I'm just going to say, if you don't have the Waterstones edition and you don't have that additional chapter, you're not missing out, right? It didn't take anything away from the book, but it also didn't add anything. Did that make sense? Yeah. I don't know if I've sold this book to you or not. I don't know if I'm trying to sell this book to you or not. Yeah. Overall, though, I really enjoyed this book. It was a really fun read. Who'd I recommend this to? I would recommend this to anyone who really enjoyed Killing Eve and you're looking for a book with a similar feel. I really enjoyed that. Just like the cold ruthlessness she has of picking off certain members. I mean, I think there were a few murders, 6 in total. I think, was it 5 or 6? I can't remember. They were fun. I particularly enjoyed the way she killed her cousin. I think he was the one who was the least deserving of it. There was like her grandparents, I get it. Her uncle, I get it. Her cousin, I was like, I personally would have let him off. But fine. Despite that, I did kind of enjoy. I actually did enjoy that chapter. Probably one of the most enjoyable chapters. Yeah, and I would also recommend it if you're just like, I'm not sure if I don't read a lot of crime, right? This is the only one I've read this year, and it's probably going to be the only one I read this year. Contemporary crime, at the very least. Um, so I don't know how it holds up in the genre as a whole, but as someone who just dabbles in it very, very occasionally, if like me, and if you're like me and you only dabble occasionally, I think this would be a good book for you. I don't know if that is your genre of choice. I don't know how this holds up, so I really couldn't say whether I would recommend it or not. But if you are just looking for a contemporary fun crime book that you really don't need to take too seriously and is just a bit of fun, then yeah, I think this is the book for you. But yeah, I've literally run out of things to say. Yeah, it's not that much shorter than usual this video, but it's not my longest to date. That's actually it's a decent length for once. Yeah, so I'm gonna wrap up here, and I'll see you guys in the next video.